What is something that resonated with you that aligns with current practices in your school? One of the key initiatives that we witnessed that was very effective over in London was the importance of building leaders of the future, and particularly around middle leadership. It's something that we've worked hard on at our school at Blue Haven, but it's something that we continue to look for new and innovative ways to increase the capacity of our staff so that we're preparing leaders for the future. So over in London, they spent a lot of time on professional development, professional reading, making sure that they were upskilling leaders for the future, but also making sure that they're identifying leaders early in their leadership journey or their teaching journey as well, to give them the experiences that they need to work out whether leadership's for them, but also to give them the skills and the confidence to make sure that if leadership opportunities do arise, that they're prepared to step up and take them on.
How did the schools engage in quality professional learning? I think we saw so many different varieties of professional learning, and it was really wonderful to see that the head teachers, the principals in their schools really got down to what were the needs of the kids in that school. They looked at data, they looked at trends, they looked at the local community and the families coming into their school. They looked at the group of teachers they had, and they then decided what would be best for that school. So it was really contextualised, which was so wonderful. But there were systems to dip in and out of. So there were programs designed by UCL that were for middle leaders. So a real strong development process of teachers into leaders. There was a lot of emphasis on action research in a lot of the schools. So teachers were on the ground participating and researching and developing strategies in their school with their class, writing it up in papers, having them published and then sharing that beyond their school. A lot of the schools talked about teachers engaging in the Masters of Education, and that was a real importance. And then obviously they had a lot of professional learning for headship around that, so it was really wonderful.
Well, that was the second point that we saw about leadership, about continuing professional learning, how leaders identified teachers to be future leaders and invested the time and invested the resources with teachers that were going to be future leaders. And many of those leaders have gone on to be leaders within their own school, not at the school down the road.
Yes. Sure, there were little things that we could bring back to improve the student learning outcomes across the system. And I think we looked at streamlining and really putting some time into teacher leadership, professional learning, especially for our middle leaders, and maybe getting some sort of, in schools or whatever, some sort of shared scope and sequence, for the want of a better word for that, really pushing into the Leadership Institute a bit more and looking at the great things that were on offer there. And then also that really strong student voice that we saw in London as well, that could be expanded upon from on what we've got happening in the schools at the moment.
Definitely.
What have you learnt about yourself from participating in the London Scholarship? And I think for myself, I've learnt that leadership is really important at all levels, not just for senior leaders. I think it's important that there's a continuum of learning for beginning teachers, so they have a platform to know what they need to aspire to or how they can develop. And I think that we need to work towards putting something like that together. Again, in my own context, I've started to do that this year, where we will focus on our classroom teachers and our more experienced teachers will have an understanding of what it is to be a leader, and perhaps what they need to do to demonstrate that to move into leadership positions.
There are many good lessons to learn from the UK experience, and it was a really wonderful opportunity to walk into schools, a real privilege to see those principals in action, the teachers working with children, and the practices they put in place. I consider myself a very lucky principal to have had the opportunity.